Paddy the Baddy is the UFC's hottest rising product, but that fame hasn't come without controversy. He's now on the spotlight for his recent controversial win, a feud with Ariel Helwani, and a brewing rivalry with Jake Paul. So how did he get himself into them all? And is he what he claims to be? Plus, Jake Paul and Conor McGregor have both been warned over challenging opponents to fight in the gym. So how might it land them in a jail cell? Stay tuned because all of that and more is coming right up. First up, Paddy's most controversial win. Paddy Pimblett's latest fight has the entire MMA community talking, and not for any of the good reasons. For UFC 282, Pimblett was up against unranked Jared Gordon that was seen as a stepping stone up the lightweight division, and he may have recorded his 6th straight win to remain undefeated in the UFC, but his reputation took a big hit. Gordon looked dominant in the first round, connecting with left hook after left hook. In the second, he comfortably out-wrestled Pimblett, but was hit with some damage throughout the round. Then in the third round, Gordon turned the heat up before Paddy finished with ground control. That's why when Paddy's hand was raised after the bell, people were shocked. Veteran UFC fighter Michael Johnson called the fight a robbery, while fellow Paddy's lightweight Mike Davis called the fight a marketing scheme to build up Paddy's credibility. As for the man himself, he didn't seem too worried about all the chatter. In his post-fight interview, he described it as the fight of the night, but said that the result wasn't close at all. Paddy explained that he felt he won the first 2 rounds easily and so took the pressure off to coast through the final round. But he did admit that he injured himself during the first round and that he would need to get it x-rayed before deciding when he would be ready to return to the octagon. In the meantime, he'll have some work to do to regain his popularity, and a good place to start is with Ariel Helwani. But Paddy was beefing with Helwani before UFC 282. Love him or hate him, Ariel Helwani has been in the MMA for a long time. He's a big target of UFC President Dana White, who accuses Helwani of drumming up drama and hurting the image of his company. And Paddy Pimblett seems to agree. In a podcast with Dana White, Paddy said he hated Ariel Helwani, who he described as a little rodent. Why such harsh words? Well, Paddy was insulted that Ariel didn't offer him any money for an interview and accused Ariel of exploiting MMA fighters to make a profit. Helwani, who is a veteran MMA journalist, gave a lengthy response to Paddy's comments. He shared a voice message left by Pimblett asking if Helwani wanted to meet up, as well as a follow-up email from Pimblett's manager requesting payment for an interview if it went ahead. When Pimblett won his controversial fight at UFC 282, it was the first thing on his mind. Before even beginning the post-fight interview, he jokingly asked Joe Rogan if he was going to be paid for it. But judging by the reaction of the crowd and Rogan, Paddy's attacks on Helwani haven't landed well at all. Rogan ignored the comments, and there was no reaction from the crowd. Predictably, Helwani called the verdict one of the worst scorecards ever, and online, people seem to be rallying behind Helwani more than Paddy. Helwani has traditionally been a punching bag for UFC fans, so if they are siding with him instead, Paddy must have done something wrong. Next, Paddy's surprising next opponent. Paddy has never been afraid to speak his mind, and that means interacting with the man who has been haunting the MMA scene for the last year, Jake Paul. The YouTuber turned boxer has made a name for himself by beating 3 former UFC fighters in the boxing ring, and 2 of them were champions. So when Jake started talking about Paddy, it wasn't long before the two built up a feud that has already almost ended in a fight. After Paddy accused Paul of fixing his fights, Paul offered up $1 million for Paddy to fly to Puerto Rico and spar with him. Paddy refused, saying that it was too close to his UFC 282 fight night to be flying, but he had a different offer. Paddy said that if Paul could make it to Las Vegas, he would fight Paul just 48 hours after UFC 282. He said challenge accepted, but if you want to spar, come to the PI next week. I fight Saturday, I'll chill Sunday, and I'll beat you up Monday. Paddy also said he'd pimp slap Jake if he saw him backstage at the fight, but there was little chance of that. Jake revealed on a recent podcast that Dana White banned him from all UFC fights some time ago and that he even had his tickets declined once. The sparring session never materialized, but Paddy wasn't just talking trash about Paul, he also had some positives to say. He stood by his comments that the bouts were rigged, but admitted that Paul isn't that bad now, and he said that it's no surprise because he has employed the best coaches, nutritionists, and professionals in the field. Up next, Next, how could Jake Paul's challenge to Paddy end up with him being sent to jail? And what are the conditions Paddy has laid out before he steps into the boxing ring? So don't go anywhere. Jake Paul has plenty of options. With the amount of promotional work that Paul has done, it's no wonder that he has to pick from dozens of potential opponents. And there are two big names that fans would love to see him choose. The first is Tommy Fury, the half-brother of heavyweight champion Tyson Fury. Tommy and Jake have been engaged in a war of words for the past year, even more so after their fight fell through. Tommy Fury and his entourage were not allowed to travel to the USA, and Jake refused to fight in the UK. That has since changed. Jake has stepped up to Tommy's offer and said that he's willing to fly to Fury's home country for the bout. But Tommy's father and coach, John Fury, isn't so sure. John claims that when he saw Jake in Dubai, he could see fear in his eyes. And John has upped the stakes for his son too. He said, if Tommy can't knock Jake Paul out, I'll retire Tommy from the sport of boxing straight afterwards. And he doesn't just want a knockout. John wants Tommy to knock him into next week. With Tommy Fury's career on the line and Jake Paul finally fighting someone his own age, it's a rather appealing event. Another option for Jake is the controversial influencer Andrew Tate, but that might be biting off a little more than he can chew. Tate is a former kickboxing world champion. The two faced off in a short video posted to social media, but most think it was purely for entertainment purposes. Tate looks to be more interested in fighting Jake's brother Logan, who he has promised to fight for free, so maybe Jake should stick to the idea of fighting Paddy. Next, Paddy has no doubt about beating a heavier Jake Paul. Paddy the Baddie has earned himself a name in MMA by having a big mouth and a big fight game to back it up, and he has plenty of confidence that he would deal with Jake Paul easily despite the more than 30-pound weight difference between them. He said, I'd just pick him up and drop him on his head. That's if they were doing MMA. Clearly, Jake isn't ready to step into the octagon against MMA pros just yet, so Paddy is willing to settle for a boxing session. But he has some conditions first. Paddy said that he would have to put up $1 million into escrow first to make sure that the money is safe. He thinks that Paul might run away without paying if he lost to Paddy, especially if it was a sparring session. Once again, though, Paddy had some praise for what Paul has achieved in the fighting industry. He said that Paul knows what he's doing and he is quite smart. For now, he's able to generate buzz for his fights. Picking big names like Tyron Woodley and Anderson Silva, who have had successful careers in the UFC, has proven to be a winning formula. Paul's been criticized for fighting smaller opponents without boxing experience, but they are still world-class fighters. But the more unofficial challenges, where he's inviting fighters to fight in a training environment, could land him in hot water. That's why Chael Sonnen has warned them both. On Sonnen's YouTube channel, the famous trash talker had some words of wisdom for fighters like Jake Paul and Paddy Pimblett. It might be tempting to settle online beef in the ring, but unless the rules are followed, it could potentially end their careers. Sonnen said there's a line between what is sportive fight and what is a crime is a little bit closer than some of these challengers appear to understand. And he's right. Unless fighting events are done under the right supervision and conditions, there can be big legal consequences. Sparring with each other is fine. In training camps, fighters bring in a range of opponents to make sure that they're ready for their big night. The problem comes when a great deal of money is put on the line, and $1 million is nothing to sneeze at. In that case, fighting outside of the regulations can have a fighter's license taken away and can even lead to jail time. And Jake isn't the only one making these kinds of challenges. When Conor McGregor's ex-teammate Artem Lobov filed a lawsuit for the rights to Proper 12 whiskey brand, McGregor challenged him to a fight to settle the issue. Chael Sonnen said that the times when things can be settled the old-fashioned way are gone. The Nevada State Athletic Commission, which regulates all combat sports in Las Vegas, doesn't mess around anymore. When a student died during a frat party boxing event earlier this year, the commission launched its own investigation into the event. These online challenges have given a whole new meaning to the term keyboard warrior. Should Paddy the Baddie take Jake Paul up on his offer? And what do you think about these unofficial fights? Let us know in the comments below. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more MMA content. And we'll see you on the next one. Oh yeah.